Hey everybody, this is Tiqqle, and in this video we're going to go over the Elemental Shaman Burst, which is for 8.2, and 8.2.5 is right around the corner, so it's also going to be including that because nothing's changing for Elemental Shaman for that. So I just want to give a quick shout out. Check out my Twitch. If you guys don't know that I stream over on twitch.tv/tiqqlethis. There'll be a link down in the description. Make sure to check that out. We're there daily doing this burst almost, unless we're playing on Classic Fairbanks server. But otherwise, this video has been requested by a few people in the chat and a few people in the comments, so thank you for requesting this video. Now let's jump into how do you burst as an Elemental Shaman. All right, the number one key thing that you need to know is that it's all about your stats and your traits. Everyone knows by now, BFA, it's all about that. So the number one trait you need is Lava Shock, and it's at the cost of anything else. You want to get 3 Lava Shock traits, and you want those to be the highest item level possible. I went for the Engineering Helmet, which is actually a very easy item to get a very high item level of. So I got a 450, which is basically mythic, and that's a pretty big Earth Shock, as well as has some other benefits like the auto self-cauterizer against rogues. But otherwise, I have a 435 shoulders with Lava Shock, and then I also have I got lucky with a 450 chest with Lava Shock. That's going to be giving me the stacking increased damage up here as a buff. I also have a weak aura. If you want to see that, check out my UI video. I'll put that in the description. It is increasing as the Flame Shock ticks. It's going to keep increasing the damage of your next Earth Shock. Why this is so important is it's not just increasing, you're seeing 8K, it's going to go up to 9K. You have to think about when you get an Earth Shock crit, it's going to do close to double that damage. A little bit less because of PvP, but close to double. So you're actually getting scaling by both the trait, and then you're going to get, doubling that by crits, and then you have all these other crit multipliers. So that's the number one most important thing. From a stat priority perspective, you really want to be stacking versatility. I have 22%, which is actually pretty nutty. I could get a little bit higher, but this is where I'm usually sitting, prioritizing that on my enchants, on my gems, wherever I have them, etc. 22 is pretty huge. And why, Tiqqle? Well, it says increase the damage and healing done by 21%, meaning if I have 0% versatility versus I have 22%, I'm doing almost 22% more damage just flat, which is huge. Obviously, I'm at a pretty high item level, 433, but that's barely high now, actually. I know 440 is all over the place. So having this plus 20% damage is going to scale as well with that Lava Shock, because this is all about getting very big Earth Shock crits as well as lightning bolts with Stormkeeper. We'll get into that in a few minutes. The other important stat is critical strike. Mine is 17%, which is not the highest, but at least my versatility is high because of that, But that's fine. So that's that. All right, well, now let's just quickly look over the PvP talents. Earthen Rage is fine for the burst. This is going to be constant damage. This is going to be helping with the constant damage, but it also helps with your Maelstrom generation. This burst, you need to have 60 Maelstrom. To do that, you need to be generating Maelstrom. If you're getting trained by a warrior and you're running around a lot, guess what? Your totems, as long as you're in combat, are going to keep that Maelstrom bar generating one at a time. Very slow and steady, but guess what? You're gonna beat the race using that. So next, let's go over Earthen Shield is fine, whatever. I like that. Spirit Wolf's okay too. Master of the Elements, this is actually very important. You need to be filtering this in with your burst rotation. This will increase the next physical nature frost ability by 20%. This is very important for Earth Shock and potentially those lightning bolts. This is defensive. This is basically defensive, but you can also bring that into the burst if you want to use Meteor, or you can use Search of Power for one more overload. Depends on what comp you're against, if you need the other defensive, or if you can go for that potentially additional overloads. This is potentially the biggest burst. Even though your Fire Elemental is actually a burst cooldown. I recommend using him only when you're going for that burst. And then lastly, Stormkeeper, which is definitely part of this burst. It's pretty nutty. So that's that. We've gone over the traits. We've gone over the spec. Now let's go over the neck. The neck, the number one most important thing to do this one shot is Blood of the Enemy, and only rank 3. Rank 1 and 2 don't matter. Rank 3 is the only thing that matters. Why? Well, if you look very closely, it increases when you use it, increases your critical chance against the targets hit by it by for 10 seconds, and then increases your critical strike against damage against the targets by 25. That's the winger. Winger? What? The ringer. That is the biggest deal. Increasing your crit strike damage is so important because you're also going to be using Sky Fury, which will also increase your crit damage by 20%, which is also going to be scaling with your 20% for Master of the Elements. which is also, you know, so it just keeps on going. It keeps on going. So it's very important, guys. Make sure you get this one. Now, this second minor, you could change a few things out. Condensed Life Force will do the most overall damage in the arena. It will do about 7% damage. If you want to go for the biggest one shot, you could probably go Conflict and Strife, which will stack more versatility up to another 400, which will get it going pretty high. We'll use this for this example, but in arena I usually do use Condensed Life Force because it is just additional pressure. So that's about it. So now let's kind of go over what we'll do next is I'll walk you through the rotation, and then I'll also show you some highlights of where I've used this and gotten up to 150 Earthshock crits. Now, when I click my buttons, guys, make sure to take a look in the bottom left. That's where you'll be able to see exactly the order. So you don't have to just believe the words I'm saying. You'll actually know. Now, Lightning Lasso is not part of this burst rotation. That's one change from my other PvP guide. I use Lightning Lasso along with a on-use dot trinket, like I have the Rotten Crusted Voodoo Doll here. I'll use that and Lasso as a burst. But in general, what you really need to be lining up is your on-use trinkets. You need, and along with, if you're an orc, your Blood Fury Racial. Which is why I have this macro down here, the Swifty Macro, baby. I'll show you what that is really quick. I'll put this down in the description as well. This is just using Blood Fury and the badge in the same global. That is just to save a button press. Because you really do, guys, need to focus. The biggest thing I'll emphasize here is you really, really cannot waste globals. And you can't waste time. The buff from Blood of the Enemy is only 5 seconds. That is 3 global cooldowns. That's it. If you waste a part of a second, you will only get 2 globals. And thanks for Gruntworks for pointing out that I can't count. So that's that. So okay, let's just start ramping into it. I'll show you a few times, and then we can go from there. Now, what's the most important thing? Lava Shock trade. So you need to get those Flame Shocks rolling. The Flame Shocks are going to be giving those Lava Shocks. As you're doing this, I'm just building up my Maelstrom. You do need to have above 60 Maelstrom because you do need 1 Earthshock. Luckily, unlike Season 1, you only need 1 Earthshock, so I'm just going to go ahead and get everything up. All right, so I pretty much have everything right now. The way you start this is you have the only thing you have to cast is Stormkeeper, okay? That's the only thing you have to cast. Everything else is an instant cast. So you want to make sure you're kind of relatively close, right? Because you, again, 5 seconds is very short. What you want to be doing is make sure Flame Shock's up. All right, what you want to be doing is you want to cast, and I'll try to make this visible here too so you guys can see the damage over there. You want to cast Lava Burst because you want this up there. You want to have a Master of the Elements, right? And then you want to cast Stormkeeper. Why Stormkeeper first versus the other things? Well, if you get interrupted, you don't want to waste everything else. You don't want to use Sky Fury, your trinkets, and then try to Stormkeeper and then have that get interrupted. If you do, you'll waste your, all those other cooldowns. You have to wait again. So let's just do this again. Ready? All right. Totems are down. I'm right next to the target. We're going to get my Lava Burst up. I'm going to drop that. I'm going to do Stormkeeper. And I need to do this quick. Sky Fury, all that stuff. Blood of the Enemy. Earthshock. Lightning Bolt. Lightning Bolt. 90k crit. Okay, dude. Okay, so let's see what we did. But that was basically it. I did it very fast. You can see the abilities here. You can definitely replay it back and slow it down. But let's just take a quick look. I did Earthshock for a 74k without critting, by the way. That's 74k without critting. It would have been 150 if I did. We'll do it again. Lightning Bolt hit for 100k. Okay. This damage is a little bit inflated, I think. Lightning Bolt Overload was 23k, which is sick. So I got a double overload. I got lucky. And then I got another Lightning Bolt, not crit. This was a crit. 93 overload. What's so important here, guys, is you're getting Lightning Bolts, but one of the reasons why you're seeing those overloads is so high is because Stormkeeper empowers your next Lightning Bolts to do 150% more damage. But it also impacts the overloads. That's why Surge of Power can be kind of the meme. But anyway, so that's that. So let's wait 25 seconds and we'll do this again. And if you were actually PvPing right now, I'd still be doing my damage. I want to get my Maelstrom back up. I have Lightning Lasso I can be using because Blood of the Enemy is on a 1.5 minute cooldown. Stormkeeper's on a 1 minute cooldown, and that's the only things you really have to worry about. Your trinket's on a 2 minute though. That's actually the longest one. So we'll chill here. We'll wait for this, and I'll be right back. All right, we're ready to go. So we'll do the Stormkeeper, Sky Fury, trinkets, Blood of the Enemy, Earthshock. 280k. Hello? See, the scaling is outrageous. That's what's actually bizarre, is the scaling is so savage that you would think that when I'm not critting and I'm getting a 75k, that when I would crit, okay, maybe it's 150. No, that was 300k. Are you kidding me? That's insane. Now, I will say the biggest Earthshock I've ever gotten in PvP Arena is about 160k, but damn, that's some big damn. Now, if we go over here to the logs, you're going to see it again. Earthshock hit for, yep, almost 300k. My God. And then I had lightning bolts for 25, overload of 90. Then we had another 100k, overload of 20. Hello? That's savage. That's a high number. Guys, that's how you do the burst. That's it. We saw it. The crits don't always come, but when they do, you destroy the enemies. Now, guys, I want to now show you a few clips from some arena games where I'm doing it. Make sure to look at the bottom left for the sequence. And then, guys, after those clips, stay tuned. I will give you one more tip that you can add to this rotation. All right, guys, in this clip, you're going to see me quickly go against this warrior druid. I was trying to go to the warrior, but he reflected, so I switched on the druid fast. Because you have all of your stuff up, you need to be using it very fast. I use my blood of the enemy while everything else is up, my trinkets, my sky fury. Then I earthshock him, and then my lightning bolt starts shredding him. After that, I did have enough maelstrom to earthshock him again for a 75k crit. I didn't crit the first one, but the second one can be just as devastating, so look out for that. Now, in this game, I'm trying to go against we're trying to burst the shaman down. The boomkin is also an okay target. We just decided to make a switch. I go ahead and I call for the dark arc, which is the secret I haven't told you about. Use blood of the enemy, earthshock for 106k, and then I start laying in with those lightning bolts. You need to use those lightning bolts right afterwards because those will be also empowered with that plus 25% crit damage. One more thing I want to tell you guys is that this is actually how I did my latest PvP video, Tiqqle 3 in 2v2, and I did it with a Disc Priest. Now, a Disc Priest, you guys already know what's coming, was using Dark Archangel during my burst, which is just devastating. I have some more 2v2 videos coming out where I'm using all my bursts with the Disc Priest using their burst along with Dark Archangel, and it's insane. So I recommend, guys, if you're trying to 2v2 with an ally, play with a Disc and do this one shot. Now, guys, if you have any other questions, if you want me to make any other videos, make sure to put it down in the comments and I'll get to it. Guys, thank you so much for the support, especially over on Twitch. You guys are the best. Thank you so much. We'll see you in the next video. Take care.